Hey everybody, Eve here. Today's topic is going to be about the downsides of living in tiny spaces. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be thinking, oh, to the point of redundancy even. Let's not talk about the cons of living tiny. I just want to hear all of the good stuff. Well, I've got good news for those of you as well. I'm going to have some solutions to these tiny space living downsides and some tips at the end of the video to help you solve these downsides, if you will. So bear with me as we delve into this topic a little more at length. And yes, I have touched briefly on the cons of living tiny, pros and cons, because this is the flip side of a coin, if you will. Heads, the pros; tails, the cons. Both sides of that coin. There's advantages, there's disadvantages to living in tiny spaces. The biggest problem being it's a tiny space. Okay? Lots of cons to that. Sides of living in a tiny space and tiny living is loneliness. Yes, we've touched on it. But we're going to go a little deeper than just common loneliness. You can live in a mansion, a 5,000 square foot mansion, 10,000 square foot mansion, if you're so lucky. To those of you that live like that, why would you even consider this? Oh, yes. Freedom. Yes. Let's never forget, that's the upside of living tiny. Living in tinier spaces is both financial and in some ways emotional freedom. In some ways it can tie you up and mess you up, and that's why I'm covering this. We're trying to figure all of this out because it's a journey that many of us, not most of us, but actually some of us will take. Not many of us, not most of us, but a very small percentage of the population will or are deciding to take this tiny space living journey for lots of reasons, various reasons. But the biggest one usually is financial. I mean, let's just break it. Loneliness, isolation, fear, insecurity, and fatigue. These are the definite top downsides of living tiny, and you will experience every single one of them if you decide to go this route and to live tiny, depending upon what options you choose, whether it's an RV, a cabin, a tiny house, any type of conversion, cargo trailer, car. Comfort, it's all about comfort, people. We want freedom. We want financial freedom. We want physical freedom. We want to live a better life on the means that we have available to us. And what that looks like is going to differ based on your financial, physical, and tons of other considerations. So believe me, living in a tent or a car is not a judgment call. You're all beautiful people, and we all deserve to live beautifully. All of us, I feel inherently, regardless of what race, color, creed, religion, we all are born with the inherent right to live decently, have a roof over our heads, food on the table, education, health care, abundance in food, but basically, just wherever you're at, try to make friends. There are local organizations, whatever town you're in, join it. Join a church. It's difficult to make friends and to rely on family if you're in an area where that's difficult to do. Say your family and most of your friends are in another state, or you're like in a situation like myself. I'm older now, retired, widow, and most of my family has died. I have a very small network of family left, and they all have their lives. We're not wealthy people. I'm not from a multi-generational wealthy class. Then I'm not crying about it. That's a fact of life. And most of you will be in that same category with me. We're just out here, making it. And so loneliness is a real problem. So my backup plan or my solution to loneliness is to put yourself in a situation where you can make friends and find a network of people who will be supportive and you can identify with, associate with, and do things with. So when you get lonely or cabin fever and feel the need to get out, take a walk, meditate, listen to music, educate yourself with YouTube, find something that gives you joy. And if you have forgotten, because I've noticed a lot of adults do this, they've forgotten what brings them joy, then try to rediscover that inner child and think about, when I was younger, what brought me joy? And what can I do to return to that state of joy? So explore those types of things. So to get out of loneliness and isolation, you need a backup plan, a network, or a support group of people who can help you remedy that. But basically, you get out of that tiny space every day. Walk, jog, do things outside to keep you mentally and physically engaged and to keep you from being fatigued, because there's a lot of fatigue to living tiny. It's a tiny space, you have to clean it. You have to maintenance and repair it. Like I said, there's a lot of things you don't do when you live in a normal dwelling. You don't have power readily available to you. So your power sources are generally limited. Your water sources are limited. Your food containment systems are extremely smaller, usually more limited. So you have to bring water in more often, food more often, supplies in more often, and then you're constantly having to downsize and declutter your tiny space in order to make it a little more comfortable, or a lot more comfortable, because that is something that we all do daily. We seek to maintain a balance of comfort. We just have to overcome loneliness, isolation, fear, and fatigue. Have a backup plan, a support system of friends, family, and daily activities that will bring you out of all of those elements. If you have a fear because you're actually mobile, living in a van or some other RV or camper or cargo trailer that's been converted, what have you, and you boondock or you're traveling around the country, please have a backup plan of where you're going to sleep, where you can do that in a relatively high degree of security and safety. Because if you're doing this in the city, there are people, and drunken people, violent people, the police, law enforcement that will knock on that. If you've got that van or that cargo trailer or other vehicle, RV, camper, parked in the wrong place, or you're violating some zoning ordinance or code, they're going to wake you up. And you're not going to get the rest you need. And then we get into the bodily fatigue thing. People that are constantly traveling, if you haven't already set up where you're going to park that vehicle nightly or where you're going to stay, please do this. Do this number one thing. Try to keep a list daily of where you can park that's going to allow you to sleep in comfort and in safety and in security. And if that falls through for whatever reasons, have another place to go to or have somebody to call. Always try to find at least one or two family members or friends that will give you a refuge just in case your best laid plans don't pan out. Very important. You must have a backup plan and support system. So that's all of my tips for today for the downsides of living tiny and the backup plan that you need to have. So while you're here, please thumbs up, comment on, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And while you're subscribing to my YouTube channel, be sure to ring that bell. It's a notification button, actually, so that when I have new video uploads, you'll be the first to be notified. And until next time, may Christ bless each and every one of you most abundantly. And bye-bye.